Do you think UFOs, the paranormal, weird history, cryptozoology, and outsider art are pretty darn cool? Then you're in the right place. Welcome to High Strangeness with your host, Steve Berg.
The video version. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of High Strangeness. Tonight, I have a very exciting guest, Doug Hajicek, and a very special co-host, my buddy Morgan Copeland. This is going to be a fun one, y'all. But before we get started, I'm going to read a little bio about Doug. And trust me, the bio, I could go on for about an hour. This man is accomplished, okay? So, Doug Hajicek is a successful television documentary series producer and television show creator committed to bringing daring voices and innovative ideas to the screen. He is respected in the industry as a cutting-edge credentialed technologist, camera systems inventor, and wildlife researcher and inventor, and documenting the never-before-seen behaviors in animals such as black bears, beavers, fish, and vertebrates. His team captured the first ever footage of the free-swimming true giant squid in its natural environment for the History Channel, as seen in Predators of the Deep, a 2-hour television special. His hit series, Monster Quest, oh buddy, I love that show, about cryptids, also set out to repurpose technologies for hundreds of TV show episodes for major networks. He now produces the Untold Radio Network focusing on the many cryptid mysteries. Buddy, welcome to the show. Doug, it is a pleasure, bud.
Yeah, it's good to meet you, Steve. It's good to meet you, Morgan.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's one of these.
But hang on, Steve.
Yeah,
okay.
sure, please.
I've never called anybody this.
Okay.
But you're young enough. I have a feeling you're a Monster Quest kid.
Yeah.
You're one of the kids. A kid that grew up watching Monster Quest.
I mean, I still love the show. It's so highly rewatchable. It's one of those. It's. Doug, it's a comfort show for me. Does that make sense? You know what I'm saying? It's one of those shows I go back to and it's like, ooh, it's like a warm blanket. It makes me feel good.
Well, it's good.
And isn't that nice in a time of an era where it's hard to make yourself feel good? And this show, it's timeless. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's one of those few shows that just holds up so perfectly.
Well, you know, a lot of parents let their kids watch it because it's wholesome fear.
Yeah.
Wholesome.
Right.
There's not much of that anymore, you know.
No, it's either ultra violence or you
It's
really
a show you can watch with your kids. And Morgan, maybe you were a Monster Quest kid too.
Sort of. I think I was in my early 20s when Monster Quest came out. Yeah. I'm still a kid at it though.
Yeah, you guys are young.
Young-ish. But Doug, it's you know, gosh, it's like, where do you start with your wonderful career? I'm going to start with the most basic question possible, and it's probably annoying. You've probably said it a million times. But my question is, you obviously are a staple in the film industry and like these, you know, kind of an animal documentary and, you know, doc series like pioneer. And were you interested in cryptozoology and the paranormal before you got into the film business?
Yeah, actually, for bedtime stories, my dad would read me Charles Fort. As an example, my dad always had a lot of his books. My mom was kind of into that too, a little bit. You know, not over the deep end, but just enough open-minded. Mm-hmm. They all liked science. In fact, we would get together every Sunday, the whole family, including my older brothers, and we would sit around and have these round tables, and we would talk science.
Oh, that's great.
And it was kind of, I just thought every family did that. I realized later on that wasn't the case, but we would get around and we would just sit there and debate things and talk about the world. And so it kind of, I think it sparked a lot of curiosity. Mm-hmm. And then as I got a little older, let's say about 10, I decided I didn't want to sleep in a house anymore. So I slept out in the woods every night, like all summer.
What?
Even at a very young age. Yeah, I liked I was like claustrophobic. My parents were fine with it. So I slept out. So a lot of times no tent. And I just did that. And I got so used to it that were my summers from probably about 9 years old all the way through where I left home.
Incredible.
I slept outside. I just didn't want to be in.
Where'd you grow up, if you don't mind me asking?
I grew up north of Minneapolis in Anoka.
Okay.
Which back then was all kind of wilderness.
Right.
You know, it really was. And, I mean, if I wasn't cooking my own supper on an open fire, even at 9 or 10, I don't know. It was just kind of I was weird that way.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, look, you had a love for nature early. I would consider yourself very lucky.
Yeah, but then some things would happen while I was sleeping out. See, I would hear some things. Okay. I would see things in the sky I couldn't quite understand. I would hear noises when I was sleeping in a tent, which is one of the reasons I didn't like to sleep in a tent, because it blinded you from what was going on around you.
Right.
You know, if you get startled in the middle of the night and you're in a sleeping bag under the stars, you just wake up and look around, you're fine. Okay, everything's cool. But I remember one night, I was very young, probably about 10, and heard what sounded like a pig snorting around my tent. But it started like touching the top of the tent. And I'm like, well, it's not a pig.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, pigs don't have arms that reach up and touch the top of the tent.
Not that I'm aware of.
And then it left. And, that's a memory that actually came back not that long ago. But throughout my life, I just was always interested in other dimensions. And I remember seeing the first time I saw a fisherman, I was like 6. A guy reeling in a fish, but it came from the depths. You know, it also wasn't there. It was just a guy pulling a line, and then there it was, an animal.
Right.
And I wondered what went down below, that it was a Lake Superior. What was below the surface when no one, what's going on down there? It's dark.
Yeah.
So I kept thinking about that, which probably led me to doing stupid things like spending, 50, 60 grand on building a giant underwater camera system, the Benthic Explorer. Then I ended up talking to a whole bunch of people and scientists into helping me. And then I ended up talking in the Blue Heron Research Ship to help launch it, and like 20 other divers. And we had helicopters, and then we had all the press corps there. And we're on a boat, and I'm thinking to myself, this was just a little thing I was curious about.
Right.
And that's what a citizen can do, or anybody can.
Yeah.
If you get help. I never did anything alone. I was I couldn't have done nothing, like zero. I was just always good at talking other people into helping me. When I was a kid, I was the guy, Steve, that would say, hey, let's go, hop on a train and go up north,
right.
Crap like that. I was that kid.
You were the friend every kid needed to leave the house. I mean, well, I mean, it sounds like you carried this adventurous spirit with you into a career and into your life that turned out to be very accomplished. I mean, you kind of did it. I think little kid you would be very proud of you right now.
Yeah, I just don't know how I survived. Well,
yeah, I think so. It's harder to survive boredom, I think. So
yeah, that's true. No, you got a point there, and I've always just been just curious, and I'm still doing stupid stuff. I just call it getting in trouble. Yeah. Every time I get, like, if I want to do a TV show, I call it getting in trouble, because if I get it, I got to work my butt off.
Right.
Do you see what I mean? It's like anything you do in life. Like you want to do a podcast, right?
Yeah.
And now you're doing a podcast, and it's a lot of work, and it's a big commitment.
It is.
So you've gotten yourself in trouble.
I kind of thought it was just you hit record and go blah blah blah. There's a podcast, but no, it's a lot more work. But I love it. I love it. So it doesn't feel like work sometimes. But I want to, Morgan, like, we have a lot of wonderful questions for you. But like, I feel like, do you want to, Morgan? Should we ask him about the giant squid first? Because that's such a giant. Iconic. It is an iconic thing. Like, I didn't know you were involved in that. I remember seeing that special and just being like, whoa. And that was kind of a crossover thing where you didn't have to be into cryptids or the paranormal to appreciate the gravity of what y'all discovered. So please tell us how you first off kind of came up with the idea to have this camera that could actually go down to those depths to detect this creature.
Well, okay, I'm going to try to make this short, but I was up in the Arctic, the opposite of where we ended up getting the footage of the giant squid. But I'm up in the Arctic, and I'm reeling in about a 30-pound lake trout, which is just considered like an average trophy up there.
Right.
And we catch them on barbless hooks, and then we release them, weigh them, measure them, release them, tag them sometimes. And I'm reeling in this 30-pound lake trout, and I'm up on the Windy River. I'm on Lake Knowlton, which is the lake that the story of Never Cry Wolf was told.
Oh, okay.
If you've ever seen that
old
movie,
good,
old
great
Disney movie. It's a great movie. And so I'm there, and I'm reeling in this big fish, and a big lake trout comes out after my 30-pound fish, which is 44 inches long, right? So that's about 4 foot. That's the fish I'm reeling in. Here comes a fish, a lake trout, that's about 6.5, 7 feet long. Right?
Whoa.
It's bigger than a man, looked like a mermaid, huge. Yeah. And it comes out, and it's trying to get my fish, and it comes out from behind this giant boulder. Up there, the water is so gin clear, you can see down like 80 feet, right? So it comes out, and I'm like, my eyes are bugging out of my head, and I'm seeing this thing, and I slow down, reel my fish, hoping it's going to gulp my 40-pound lake trout. And the guide I'm with, he sees it, doesn't say a word, he didn't care. And I reeled my fish up and took him off, and I said, Ron, did you see this thing? And he's like, oh yeah, I see those all the time. And I'm like, what? Well, I've never heard about this. And then I ended up meeting, so I decided then I wanted to do stories on giant lake trout. And I met a man who had been pulled around for like 6-7 hours, 2 guys in a boat up there, and pulled around on another lake called Point Lake. And I went up there, interviewed him, and I did a thing called the Point Lake Monster.
Mm-hmm.
And so, believe it or not, a lake trout could be a cryptid, right?
Yeah,
because
totally.
It's gotten out of his niche. A bear. If you saw a 20-foot black bear that was 20 foot long, obviously they don't exist, right? But if you did, it would be like crazy. Yeah. It would be in that cryptid category. So I went up there and I got kind of obsessed with these giant fish, and then ended up interviewing him and enjoying my time up there. Obviously, he was in the Arctic again. That was on Point Lake, and then I ended up going to Lake Selwyn with a fisheries expert and a biologist who also believed what I did, that there may be lake trout that are 600 years old.
Wow.
Living in those Arctic lakes. And the other thing that's weird, you get these fish in, even a 4-foot fish, and they're 100 years old, guys.
No kidding.
So you get them in, and they're looking at you. Their eye is like looking around, like, and you lock eyes with a lake trout, and that thing's 100, 150 years old, and you see the wisdom in that fish. It's not like, it was life-changing the first time that happened. I locked eyes, and I could tell that fish was thinking deep about what it was seeing. Obviously, think about it.
Yeah.
You're 150 years in one dimension, and now you're in another dimension, and you're looking at a bunch of men.
You're like getting abducted.
Exactly.
Getting yanked into outer space.
Exactly, Morgan. It's an alien abduction. But anyhow, so that was life-changing in itself. Then I went up to Selwyn Lake, brought another biologist, and that's where my whole life took a right-angle turn. Not only did it lead me to the idea of the giant squid, but it was also where I found giant footprints.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So Morgan mentioned this. Please
so it
tell
all
us
just
about
kind
this.
of comes together, right?
Yeah.
So we're up there, and we had built these special big camera lures, and my goal was to try to get footage of one of these giant lake trout. That was our goal, both of our goals. Our tackle box was a big, long, 6-foot cooler. That was our tackle we had in there. And we had rigged up all sorts of cool stuff. And the guy I went with was the guy that wrote all of the Time Life books on fishing.
Oh, cool.
And so he was an amazing guy. And at one point, a funny story is we pulled up, we caught a huge trout. Another giant trout, which I believe was about 6 foot, grabbed our big trophy trout. So we had one on. We actually had one on. And it was insane. And I'm trying to get footage. Everything went wrong. Cables tangled, blah, blah. Just everything, right? I would put myself in the category of a klutzy nerd when I get excited. Especially I trip, I fall, I drop stuff.
I know the feeling.
Yeah, I'm like a little kid. Okay. So everything goes wrong. And then all of a sudden it comes loose. And he pulls up a 4.5-foot skeleton. We're like, what the what? You know, the skeleton's like of a fish.
Whoa.
And we're like, what's, you know, we're just all confused. And we sat there and thought about it. And all of a sudden we realized we had hooked one of these huge fish. And we had gotten into its stomach and hooked a digested rubber skeleton, because the bones were like rubber, and pulled out this giant skeleton. Wow. So what that did was confirm that, one, there were these giant lake trout down there, because you would have to have been a giant to eat a 4.5-foot lake trout, right?
Yeah.
Like swallow to gulp it down and swallow it whole, right? Okay. We got a little weirded out by the skeleton. And I think it was the next day. Well, I was out with another guy, and I had to pee. So peeing not only changed my life, but it changed a lot of people's lives. So I had to pee really bad, like really bad. And it was windy, and I didn't want to pee on somebody. So I said, we got to go to shore. Oh, my God, I can't. I'm going to spray all over everybody.
Yeah.
So we go to shore. Beautiful. It's like the Caribbean up there.
Mm.
If you haven't ever had a chance to get up there, go. It's like so amazing up there. And so it's like a sand esker we pull up on. There's another island over there. And we got to get out of the boat, and there are footprints in the sand that are crystal clear, big, 16 inches. They were not bear tracks. I already knew a lot about bears and had done bear docks and things. So I knew they weren't double-step bear tracks. These were clear, wide, thick, heavy feet, and they were spaced in that perfectly straight line. Before I knew they weren't supposed to be in a straight line. Like you look at like in a lot of the trackways from like John Green's book, they're in a tightrope line.
Yeah.
And these were in that same tightrope type line. They were really weird, you know, because we walk real staggered, humans do.
Right.
So we followed the tracks. We went up to the pea gravel, and there was a 300-pound guy with me. Back then, I weighed like 130 maybe. There's no way I was doing it. So I said, Rick, jump off this rock and land in that soil and see how deep it goes. So he jumps off the rock, and then it was kind of a misty rain going on. So the soil wasn't dry, and he jumps off into the pea gravel. It doesn't even dent. And there's a track right next to where he jumped that's like that deep, you know, 1.5 inches deep. He doesn't even dent it. So we keep following the tracks. We get up to a bunch of stunted spruce trees. And I'm sorry if you've heard this story.
I have not.
Okay, so we get up to these stunted spruce trees. They're maybe 7 foot tall. And there's a track in front of one of the trees. So I want you to picture this track. It's right up to the trunk. And now there's a track directly in back of it in a straight line. And you know what that means? It stepped over that damn tree.
Unbelievable. Something
stepped over the tree, and my life right there, I turned white. Everything changed. And I went, oh my God, that's got to be a Bigfoot. They're real. And I'd never heard of them being up in the Arctic areas. And I thought, what were they, you know, what are they after? Oh, I bet you they're after the caribou that are giving birth.
Right.
Maybe they migrated. I didn't know. I was just like,
sure.
So we see that, and my buddy I'm with, he goes, he's a journalist, and he goes, we need to leave now. All he said, we need to go right now. And I went, and he knew about tracks too. And I go, no. We got to keep going. We got to go through this little stand of tree. I want to see what's on the other side of the stand where these footprints go. So we get out through the stand, and off in the distance on the tundra, you can see tracks going way off into the horizon.
Wow.
So there you go. Life-changing moment. My life like screw trout, screw this, screw everything. I don't care. I don't want to discover anything. I don't care. I just Bigfoot.
Yep.
That was your inciting incident. I mean,
That
a
was
powerful one.
Yeah, that was it. And I, you know, and the other thing is too, just as a caveat, I have a broadcast quality camera with me. So I'm thinking, let's go get the floatplane pilot. Let's get Gordy up. And there's no trees up here. We can follow those tracks from the air on the floatplane, right? And there it'll be. There's no place to hide there.
Yeah.
So we take the long boat ride, it's like 30 miles away we call it the butt slap, man. You're just flying through the air on these aluminum boats, and bam, 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 for 30 miles. We get back to camp, which is a tent camp, and we walk in the guy's tent, and so these big canvas, like military tents. We walk in, and we try to tell him what we just saw, blah, 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 and what I want to do. And he just thought we were playing a big camp joke on him. And he was the butt of the joke.
Right.
He took his clipboard, and, he threw that son of a bitch so hard against the tent wall. Get out of my tent. I don't want you. Every four-letter word was coming out of his mouth. And we sheepishly left, and I've regretted that moment ever since.
Yeah, well, it's regrettable, but also led you on this kind of amazing journey that sounds like you're still on to this day.
Yeah,
where
ended. Yeah, I still know where it's going to end.
And you probably wouldn't have never made a documentary, which I rewatched last night, and I love it to this day, and that is Sasquatch: Where Legend Meets Science.
Yeah.
Look at this guy's got the DVD.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, no, he's a super fan. He's a super fan. Well,
so anyhow, but thank you, and that means a lot to me. But I'm also thinking that was probably meant to happen, because what were the chances? There were millions of square miles where we were.
Well, it's also funny that you were kind of like, the reason you're out there is to find a crypto trout.
A trout, yes, a fish.
Yeah, you were there to find a giant fish, something that had not been proven to exist.
No.
So you were on a similar adventure, but you kind of got detoured into the Bigfoot land. Amazing.
Curiosity will definitely change everybody's life, and I tell people that when I talk at conferences, look at the audience, and I tell people, you guys are like in that 1% category of intelligence. You're so smart compared to most people because you're here just trying to get answers. You're curious. Yeah. It will help your whole life.
I agree. I think indulging and chasing mystery is the thing that makes me happiest in life.
Yeah.
But I can imagine that you've met, and I know some other like comedians that are into Bigfoot. Mm-hmm. Which is interesting. I know I could put you in that category, right?
Yeah.
So, do you know Bill Devlin?
I don't know.
David Race?
I don't.
You don't. I'll have to introduce you guys.
Yeah.
They're out in L.A.
Okay, yeah.
And they're comedians. In fact, I did a pilot with them called Comedians Looking for Bigfoot.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, we need to revise that.
Yeah, I'd watch that. I'd watch that.
Anyhow.
Well, Morgan, you guys, please feel free to jump in any time.
Yeah.
Morgan created some pretty good questions for you, and Morgan, I'll just let you wherever you want to jump in, buddy.
I was just enjoying the stories.
Yeah.
I was just mesmerized by the stories. I don't even know where to begin, to be honest with you.
Just dive in.
Dive in,
Morgan.
So, you answered a bunch of my questions already.
Yeah.
Now, what was the closest incident that you think you guys came in Monster Quest with? What's the mystery that you came closest into solving?
Well, we did the giant squid.
Yeah.
We were,
that's
which has been now confirmed. It was the first wild, natural environment Architeuthis ducks ever filmed, which is cool.
Yeah, very cool.
But I would say the Snell Grove, because it happened so, the Sasquatch attack happened so organically, because I had been going up there to that cabin for 30 years and nothing ever happened, but I wasn't looking for trouble, right?
Where was this, Doug?
At Snell Grove Lake Cabin. Have you seen the Monster Quest episode called Sasquatch Attack 1? And then there's a follow-up one.
Is that in the Pacific Northwest?
It's in Ontario, northern Ontario.
Okay.
Yeah. And that happened very organically. It was my place to get away. It wasn't, it was not meant for Bigfoot research because it's ruined it for me now. Like I said, I've been going there 30 years. It's like a little solar-powered cabin up on blocks. You can take a hot shower. It's got solar power. It's rustic. It's small, and it's on a lake. It's in the middle of nowhere. You fly for hours to get there and get dropped off. So quiet, you can hear your own heartbeat. So it's like luxury in the wilderness, which was a novelty way back, like 30 years ago.
Right.
That was solar powered. Anything off the grid was weird. Nowadays, there's a lot of outfitters that are doing it. It's no big deal. But back then, it was a really interesting thing. And I've been going there forever. In fact, I'd gone up there alone, completely alone.
That would have been the late 90s, early 2000s.
Outside alone under the stars. I wouldn't go there alone to save my soul anymore.
What was this like the late 90s?
Well, I started going there in the early 90s.
Okay.
But the incident happened in 2006, I believe, the first one.
Oh, okay.
Where I was up there and I brought my daughters. And I brought my daughter, I should say. And my buddy brought his daughter. And my other buddy, Vladimir, brought his daughter. So it was a dad-daughter thing. We always leave our girls behind. We're always taking our boys, constantly. And I thought, well, it's not really fair. They need to have an adventure. So everybody thought that was cool. The mothers didn't think it was so cool because, you have no you have nothing. Somebody gets hurt, you're doomed. So we go up there, and second day, we're coming out of a lake that I know of that's really creepy and really hard to get into. And we're pulling up, and the fishing in there is amazing. So we're coming out, and my daughter's doing monkey sounds. So she's probably like maybe 8 years old. And she's making monkey sounds. And I say, Dakota, what are you making monkey sounds for? And she goes, well, it helps me catch fish. Well, okay. So she's making monkey sounds, and I'm pulling out of the stream, and she keeps catching fish in this little stream that's probably like that deep. And she's catching little walleyes. But we get to the end of the stream where it's about to go to the main lake, and there's a huge wood knock right by the boat, like 5 feet from the boat.
Whoa. In
the forest. And I'm like, okay, that changes everything. And then it just kind of hit me, and we all cut our motors. And we're like, ooh. So we decided to do a wood knock. We wait till like 1, 2 in the morning and do a wood knock, see if we get a response. I had never done that up there. No research, nothing. And this was probably when I think I was filming Monster Quest. And for some reason, it wasn't a place I thought, it's too vast. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The wilderness is too vast. Like, why would a Bigfoot be here? I don't know. I think everything's always on the edges, and there's no edges up there. It's just this wilderness. And so she does that. So we do a wood knock. We wait till 1 in the morning. Vlad does a perfect wood knock, a hollow, echoey kind. We get a response just like that. Like within 30 seconds, 20 seconds, boom, and it's close. It's as close as that one that was by the boat, right? And we're looking, I look, and there's just some of these black spruce trees 30 feet away. That's where the wood knot came from. So I tell the oldest kid that's with us, my daughter's in the cabin sleeping, and I tell Maria, I said, take a rock, a little pebble, and just chuck it towards where that wood knot came. So she chucks it in there, and here comes one back. Another rock lands at our feet.
What?
So that just kept happening. So there was something, and then everybody kind of turned white when that wood knocked, because everybody was a skeptic but me.
Right.
Joe was, Vladimir. Oh man, you should have seen that smile got wiped off their face real quick. Because you have to have hands to do that kind of a wood knock.
Bears don't pick up logs and smack them against stuff.
Yeah, or throw rocks that I know of.
No. So I thought, okay, so we had this rock exchange, and then it ended in a finale. Bigfoots love to end things in a big finale. Like, if they're harassing your cabin, they're going to do a big pound, and then they're going to leave. It's over then. Well, it grabs a big rock, and it throws it really hard, and it ricochets off a rock near us and goes into the lake. Okay, over. Done.
So the one thing with these rocks, though, they're not throwing them to hit you. They're just throwing them. They're like playing a game, huh?
Yeah. No. I've never felt. I mean, you feel danger when getting rocks lobbed at you, because if one did hit you in the head, it wouldn't be good.
No.
Yeah.
But generally, I don't really know anybody that's ever been hit. So we go in the cabin. Everybody goes to bed except dumbass me. And I'm reading Field and Stream magazine that's probably 20 years old, 30 years old, by a candle, little tea light. And I finally, eventually, after 20 minutes, I get sleepy because I'm pretty energized from all that just went down.
Yeah.
And I go up to the sink, and there's a fluorescent battery-powered light above the sink. And I flick the light on to brush my teeth, because there's a pump that runs lake water out into the sink. By the way, don't brush your teeth in lake water. Anyhow. And so I flicked the light on, and that's when the cabin got attacked. Because if you think about it, and of course it makes sense, here I am facing the forest in a window, no curtains. It's pitch dark in the cabin. I flick a light on. Well, holy crap, do I got white hair. And so I think I just scared the living crap out of them.
They're kind of looking in the window, and then all of a sudden you're there.
Well, I don't think they were. I think they were just outside the window. Yeah, it was more than one, because not only it was all hell broke loose up on the roof. Something jumped up on the roof.
Wow.
Things were being thrown at the cabin. The cabin was getting lifted off the foundation.
Oh my God!
Rocked. So I'm suddenly in a bad B movie. Like, this is a real life bad horror movie. And I, of course, run like a chicken that I am. I run into Big Vlad's. He's a big Ukrainian guy. I run in there and I start beating on Vlad to get him up, to wake him up instantly. He doesn't even move, this muscle-bound guy. He doesn't do anything. So then I run into Joe's room. I got to wake somebody up.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, the skylight was open. I look up and the skylight's open, and I can hear running up on the roof.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh, crap, this is beautiful. So I'm looking for the stick, the big thing you crank to crank the skylight shut. And couldn't find it. And I get that crank, and all this hell's going on. I mean, where they're screaming, there's audio. It's not just stuff being thrown. It's audio also. It sounds like two 100-pound chimps are fighting out there.
Good God.
And so I try to wake Joe up. Joe doesn't wake up either. Weirdest thing ever. And then it just quits. Everything just goes back to normal. Quits. So that started kind of everything. And then when the floatplane pilot came to pick me up, and I've known, you guys like a brother to me. We've known each other for 30 years.
Right.
I said, Chuck, something attacked this kid. Told him the whole story. And he goes, yeah, I believe that. And I go, I'm like, well, why do you believe that? He goes, well, did you see what happened to the cabin? I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, well, everything got destroyed in the cabin here not very long ago. And I said, really? And he goes, yeah, it flipped over a 1,200-pound gas tank.
Whoa.
That weighs 1,200 pounds. Remember in the Bluff Creek stuff, you heard about them things lifting those big fuel tanks? Well, this is bigger than that. I mean, this is like 6-7 foot tall by 5 feet wide by so deep, 4 feet deep. It's heavy. Flipped it over. But he goes, yeah, they destroyed everything. Something destroyed everything in the cabin. I said, Chuck, there's no teeth marks in here. There's no bite marks, no scratches. He goes, yeah, it's all the original wood. I just put it back. They tore everything off, but Bears they do very specific damage. And I was actually an expert at that time in bear damage on cabins and how they, the things they do. And then I even took the footage over to my buddy, who's a bear biologist, the best in the world. He looked at it and he goes, that is bear damage. And so, but I said, Chuck, why is there that nail board or square board leaning in the back of the cabin facing outwards? One of my kids could have been hurt on it. He goes, oh, crap. He goes, oh, did you see the blood all over it? I'm like, what? So it just kept going, right? I'm just like, so I'm like, okay, put the damn nail board. And he said there was blood all over it. We'll put the nail board in the shed, and I'm going to come back with some scientists. And that's the start of Sasquatch Attack 1. Yeah. And of course, that was Jeff Meldrum. I think that was his first time he had ever had rocks thrown at him.
Yeah, he was pretty stunned in that episode.
Yeah. I was up there with Kurt.
You can see him kind of smiling, but he was a little bit on the.
Oh yeah, no,
he was a little freaked out.
Yeah. We all scrambled. Long story short is I then went back again one more time. Cabin got attacked. I brought a neighbor of mine. Yvette came with, and she was skeptical, and she wasn't after that trip. 8 years goes by, nothing happens. I go back. I went back last year and the year before. I didn't think anything would happen because it's been 8 years since I've been there. First night one, laying there in my sleeping bag, and I hear heavy running up to the cabin.
Oh boy.
And I'm like, oh crap. Here we go. And right away, first thing I hear is a bucket getting kicked right off the porch, just like one of those big 5-gallon plastic buckets. Bam! You can hear it getting kicked. And then the picnic table goes flying, which 2 men can't even lift it. Goes flying. And then all the hell broke loose. They went under the cabin. They're hitting the cabin. They were, there's 12-foot joists on the outside of the cabin. They're 12 foot high, and they were just like boom, 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 boom with their hand. Just hassling us.
Yeah. Scaring
everybody's up. We're all scared. It's just freaky because you can't leave.
Yeah.
You can't leave, Morgan. You're stuck. You're there. There's no
like you're running to your car.
Yeah.
There's no running anywhere. You have no weapon. We have nothing. We have a butter knife.
Yeah, it's not going to do much.
So that we had an amazing trip. A lot of activity. Nobody got hurt or anything. So then we decided to go back, right? So we go back I was there last August. And we drive up there. It's 12 hours to where the float plane takes us on our journey. So we go up there and we have to pay. We stay overnight at the outfitter. Then we have to get up early in the morning, pay the outfitter. Went down to the thing and she goes, "Oh, what lake are you going to? Where are we flying you out today?" We said, "Snellgrove." Then she goes, "Oh crap!" Like what? What? She said, "Didn't you hear what happened over there?" And we're like, "No." She said, "Oh, the cabin got destroyed again."
Oh no!
And I'm like, "How long ago was this?" She's like, like 3 weeks ago."
Oh man!
And then Adam chimes in and he goes, "Do you have any video or photos?" She goes, "Yeah, I got a video of all the damage on my phone." Well, of course, yeah, we'd like to see that maybe. So we look at it, and there it is, the same kind of crap. Cabinets ripped off, everything flipped over, crap all over the floor. This time, I see what I've been dreading. What do you think that would be? Glass. Broken glass.
Oh, yeah.
Ooze everywhere, and we're thinking, oh, now the big guys have decided they know how to break glass.
Yeah.
And that's my worst fear, being in that cabin and hearing glass break.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do.
I love not having my arms out of their socket.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it does seem, and I'm not trying to, get into the head of a Bigfoot necessarily. Well, I suppose I am. But I feel like if they wanted to hurt you, they certainly could get into the house. I mean, when you were there. Yeah.
But what if they just wanted to play with you?
Yeah, that might be worse. I'd probably vie for the quicker death in that scenario.
Suddenly the Albert Osman stories, going through my brain.
Putting you in a sleeping bag and carrying you away.
So here's the video. I could play it. I could play the audio. It's hilarious. So the pilots go into the cabin Here's what they say. Welcome to Cellgrove. Fuck. Oh, there's a pause, and then you hear fuck.
Oh, man, that's so
okay, but it gets
funny.
worse. Okay, so we go down to the dock. We pay our bill. We see the video. We're all a little scared now. We go down to the dock, and the pilot goes, where am I? We know the pilot. His name's Guy. And we go, hey, Guy, how you doing? Yeah, where am I flying you guys out? It's good to see you, blah, blah, blah. We're going out to Snellgrove. He goes, Snellgrove? And he goes, did you hear what happened? We're like, yeah, we heard it got wrecked. He goes, no, I'm not talking about that. And I'm like, well, what did she leave out of the story? She said, well, let me show you. So she whips out a picture, and there's now this giant tree that they got the cabin done, and the next day they went back just to put the lock in. The doors got ripped off, right? So they just went to go put the lock in, and there was a big tree pushed over on the roof of the cabin.
Oh my
Huge,
God.
the biggest tree up there, probably in the whole damn country of Ontario, and it just pushed it over gently on top of the cabin, just enough to where you can't get in the cabin. You follow?
Yeah.
It's like strategically placed. They couldn't even get in the door. And it's massive. And so I have the photo of that. And he shows us, and we're like, oh my God. Everybody's like looking, do you want to actually partake and leave here? And everybody's like thinking about it. So we went. And of course, it was, for the moment I got there, I found a beautiful hair, naturally worn ends, or end, no medulla, tapered tip, all that stuff. And there it was, snagged on the hinge of the doors. That was leaning against the shed. So I've got this, I think it's a beautiful hair. It's, So there you go. That's our trip. We didn't been there 2 minutes. I got a hair.
That is incredible. That is incredible.
Yeah, so,
like, I mean, how many, maybe it's too many to count, but how many times do you feel like you've been in the proximity of a Bigfoot? Like, in experience, and we're like, that's probably a Bigfoot.
I would say probably now, where I've had stuff happen, 15 times.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, at least 15.
Have you ever experienced any, have any of these experiences been in a place that wasn't in Canada or the Pacific Northwest?
Yeah, oh God, yes. I got a great story.
Please.
First time I heard my daughter swear. There's something about bringing your daughters. Don't do it. Don't recommend it. So I brought my youngest daughter, because she's been hearing these stories for years, right? From everybody at all these family outings and stuff, because my one boy's a researcher, and he's always he's got stories. But anyway, my youngest daughter goes, well, I'd like to go sometime. And I'm like, oh, and she had never, it was Dakota that went up to Snell, not her. So I said, okay, well, plan something. So me and my son figure out this spot that's right on the Canadian border. It's near Blueberries, because what happened that one time was I went a different date. I'd been 30 years going in June. Suddenly I switched my dates to go with August because a guy stole my time slot. And I believe that led to the Bigfoot experience too. Was the blueberries are all ripe up there.
Yeah.
So we planned out the blueberries being ripe at this place. 11-mile logging road, so it's very isolated. Once again, solar-powered hot shower. I'm thinking, hey, this is my kind of glamping. So we go up there. My daughter goes up there. So Blaine does a wood knock. We get up there to let whatever. It's kind of his method, just one wood knock. We get a wood knock back. And then we hear a scream. And my daughter hears that, and she goes, Dad, come in the cabin with me right now. She said, we're going to put blankets over all the windows, because nobody has curtains up at these cabins.
Yeah.
So she makes me put a blanket up in the room we're going to be staying in at this cabin with duct tape, right? That night, about maybe 1:30 in the morning, I hear a recycling bin open and closing on the left side of the door. It's like a plastic bin. Then on the right side, I hear them open and close the glass one. There's 2 recycling bins, opening over and over and over. And I've always believed they have autistic qualities.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Then I hear it walk down to the truck, playing with Velcro on the pickup truck, a big Dodge Ram. Then walk up on the porch again, playing with the recycling bin over and over and over and over. I mean, it's just crazy.
That's actually been documented, like with the Sierra Sounds when Al Berry was there.
Really?
In the Sierras back in the 70s, they had a porta potty. Well, it wasn't a real porta potty. It was just a toilet seat on a bucket.
Uh-huh.
And they cleaned it out after they used it. It wasn't like nasty. But they had up at their hunting blind that they had up there, they went and stayed. They would hear that toilet seat go up and down, up and down. And they actually caught it on recording.
I didn't know that because
connection right there, I was like, oh.
I've spent quite a bit of time with Ron Moorhead. Driving around and doing stuff. I guess I never told him my story. He never told me that story.
Yeah, it's in the early recordings when it was just Al Berry doing the recordings.
Okay, I'm going to dig into that because it's very autistic behavior. I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. So then it walks down. It just keeps doing this over and over and over. I've got my little daughter next to me. I'm not sure I want to rock the boat. I have a 30-30 rifle, but it ain't loaded. It's sitting on the ground. I'm thinking about chambering one in there, but I'm thinking, let's just hear what it does. It's all peaceful at this point. But it's right out my window, and there's duct tape sealing my view. All of a sudden, it felt like a semi-truck hit the cabin.
Oh,
I mean, a semi-truck. And I'm not exaggerating because our whole bed flew away from the wall. I sat up. My daughter sat at the exact same time, and she said the F word.
It's allowed. That one's allowed.
Yeah.
And that was it. That was the grand finale, right?
Oh, wow.
They always seem to do this grand finale. Keep that in mind if you ever do any research. They do something big like that, bigger than they've ever done. It's usually they're leaving.
Right.
It's like, you see gorillas that they do that pound the glass and they run like chickens.
Yeah.
Very much like that. But to this day, I don't understand the amount of force that it took to hit that wall of the cabin to push our bed a foot away from the wall.
Unbelievable.
It was insane.
I mean, a 1,200-pound bipedal bull.
Yeah.
I got a little weird story here that just happened.
Oh, please.
Up there. Okay, so then every night another wall got attacked. It was the east wall, then it was the south wall. That every night we're up there, they attacked another wall and threw crap at the wall and did stuff. Nobody had quite experienced the shove that we did, but a lot of loud, cordwood hitting the side of the wall. Whatever it could find outside, big rocks. Okay. So the weird thing is my buddy wanted to book it. And we check, he was with me, sitting right next to me. And we check it, and it's like open, like usually, it would be. A lot of dates open here and there. He went back to book it the next day, and every date had been booked for the whole summer. And so he's... Right away he goes, I think the government did that to keep you from going there. Like,
interesting.
That's interesting. Anyhow,
that is.
I didn't say that, but it was just interesting. The next day, why was it all booked?
Right. I mean, that seems like somebody got real excited about that place all of a sudden.
I don't know. Overnight. That's a lot of dates, and that place is not cheap to go to. So.
Well, I want to ask you this question, and I don't know the answer, obviously. But when it comes to Bigfoot, more and more people are kind of, like newer researchers are kind of like, I don't know if the word admit is the right way to phrase it, but like they're talking about, there is kind of this thing with Bigfoot where people will also experience other kind of symptoms of high strangeness, like, little orbs of light or just some kind of other hallmarks of the paranormal almost, right? And I'm wondering, have you or any of your other research colleagues experienced any other kind of symptoms of the paranormal, I guess, for whatever.
Up at Snell last year, last August, there were everybody in camp except me saw red orbs floating
Okay.
right out the window.
Okay.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
We've had things like a thunder knock happen broad daylight. I wasn't there once again. I wasn't there. I had to leave one day early because I had a conference I had to go to. I had to fly out one day early. They claimed they heard a wood knock. 3 of them claimed this. It was so loud, it was like a sonic boom hit them. And they felt their bodies kind of, actually get hit with a sonic wave. And they coined the phrase the thunder knock. And I'm like, what the frick is a thunder knock? I've heard wood knocks. And he goes, well, picture like maybe 50 sticks of dynamite going off.
Wow.
In the woods and right by you. And he said you can just feel he said we could feel the stick getting swung as if it was a giant tree getting swung. And then we hit with the concussion. I'm like, God, that's weird.
Yeah.
Once again, I didn't experience that, but they did.
Right.
So-
But yes, so people who have had kind of these high strange experiences. I mean,
The weirdest thing ever happened to me is one time me and my son and some other, I think it was Yvette and his girlfriend, we were around a campfire and we heard us getting bum rushed through the weeds and everything. We had a field on our left and we were getting bum rushed in the darkness by the ground shaking. It's not like an elephant just running at us and getting closer and closer. And all of a sudden, of course, we ran. All of us ran, just like little kids. There wasn't anything there. So that was kind of weird.
yeah, I mean, well, there's a lot of weird things about Bigfoot that, I mean, like, I'm not saying, I obviously, I don't know what it is, but, I mean, there are, these instances where people will follow footprints and all of a sudden they just end and disappear like the thing was sucked up into the sky. And
Yeah.
it's hard to wrap your mind around some of that stuff,
It is, but I mean, they obviously have great strength. We were talking about this the other night on my show about how, they are seen on all fours many times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if a track suddenly ends, they could have done the stop, drop, and roll.
They could have jumped.
They could have
They could hit a tree.
But rolling or going on all fours would leave much less of a footprint. Walking on sides of feet.
Mm-hmm.
There's all sorts of tricks that they could employ if they had that intelligence
Mm-hmm.
where they did not want their tracks found. So they can't just jump immediately to some supernatural, but what is supernatural? Look, I've seen a lot of weird stuff. I've had a lot of weird stuff happen to me throughout my life. Some of it I can explain, some of it absolutely cannot explain. And you just go, well, we live in an amazing world. Like, why rule out anything?
I agree.
Keep an open mind. Don't laugh at anything. Be humble. We don't know jack crap about our world.
Right.
We don't know anything.
Right. I'm curious. I'm always super fascinated. Are you still currently in Minnesota? I'm always really, fascinated by people's kind of local strangeness. And Minnesota's had plenty of Bigfoot sightings, right?
Oh God, yes.
Like, do you have any experience like running into anything weird in Minnesota?
Oh my God, yes. Oh, absolutely. Like being a vet now, I've had 2 really good sightings.
Oh, really?
One was on Highway 169 heading south. There was what we thought was a moose standing at the side of the road, just sitting there, but moving its head back and forth, right? As we got up there, we realized what we thought was antlers was arms. And what we thought were antlered tines were fingers.
Whoa.
And we're talking about something that was easily close to 9 foot tall, broad shoulders. And we got close, and I'm illuminating it with my high beams. So you really get a good look, and it's moving. It's not just stationary. And it's like doing a hula dance, like with its upper arms. It's just doing this back and forth, We can see the hair hanging off this, the arms. My headlights have illuminated it in great detail. We can see the muscles, we can see the fingers, but it's got its back turned to the headlight. And of course, it's doing this right where an area where a stream empties into a lake. from a state forest. So I figured it was a hot night, came out, took a swim. There was actually a culvert that went under the road that we were on, right there from this creek, and it was drying off. That's all it was.
Yeah, it was like shaking off like a dog.
Exactly. And we saw that. It was amazing.
So, one thing, Doug, with Bigfoot, you just made a kind of a connection here. It seems like your experiences have always been around a body of water.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Every time.
A creek, a stream, a lake, a river. You know what I mean?
Well, they don't call them water apes for nothing.
Yeah. That's up in Vancouver. They like to swim between the islands.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, they swim. They're never found. God, you can almost find. You can go to the BFRO. I don't think you'll find one sighting that's beyond 150 yards from water.
Yep.
That alone tells you they're real.
Right.
Yeah.
If this was just spurious information.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have those consistencies.
We have. I'm in Southern California. I'm just north and east of San Diego.
Okay.
And I don't know if you ever heard of a researcher. He's passed away. His research was eventually put into a book by his friends. His name was Dean Kuhn, or not Dean Kuhn. Sorry, Ken Kuhn. Dean Kuhn's a fiction writer.
No, actually, I don't know who that is.
He's got this book called
I
Sasquatch.
recognize that drawing.
Yeah. So his friends, after he passed away, compiled all of his stuff, and it's mostly Southern California. It's mainly in California, but he's the one who first documented like the later sightings of like the Borrego Sandman and them coming up through the border up through Mexico. He kind of came up with coined the idea of them migrating from South America, Central America, and up into going all the way up to Canada. Like, he thought some of them did migrate for food or for mating and stuff like that, but
I think that's highly likely. There would be some type of these, brand of these creatures down in Belize.
Yeah.
Guatemala.
Well, they do have stories. They do have
some of the
stories
areas of
coming.
Mexico.
Like, if you go on, there's a website called the Bigfoot Mapping Project, where individuals can go on and put on their.
Yeah, Scott's a good friend of mine. Yeah,
love that. Love that.
In fact,
website.
his show is on our network, the Bigfoot Mapping Project, on the Untold Radio Network. He does a monthly podcast for us.
Yeah,
but yeah,
he's been getting a lot lately out of other countries. Finally, it's taken a number of years, but within the last year or so, it's like genuine stories, and it's amazing.
There are so many sightings. I believe maybe 1-2% are reported ever anywhere.
Yeah,
to anybody. So I think we've documented maybe 0.1%
Right.
Yeah.
of the sightings in the last, let's say, even 30 years.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
1/10 of 1%.
I've been personally told stories from people into their 60s and 70s down here in San Diego and up in the San Joaquin Mountains and the San Bernardino Mountains. And I'd never been told before, you know what I mean? So it just goes to show, like, there's so much more out there than people just either they're afraid to say something or they don't care. They're like, it's here,
Yeah.
They don't need to prove it to anybody.
Well, yeah, and you guys obviously got interested by either just the mystery, the ongoing mystery that's never going to go away because it's fueled every day.
Yeah.
Nobody's seeing unicorns.
No.
Well,
I said that. My bunch of stuff in my studio was flying around. I don't know what's going on. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I did hear that.
I actually had to look behind me. Like, what? Okay. Whatever.
You brought a hitchhiker home with you.
I don't know. Yeah,
Doug,
stuff like that happens.
I have one more question. I have a question for you too.
By the way, I'm in no hurry. Whatever.
Okay, good.
No hurry.
Have you ever had any unexplained like lights in the sky? Not necessarily UFOs.
Oh my God, yes. We could tell you. Yeah, you have no idea what I've been through on UFO fronts. the
Because
last
everybody
thing,
knows you as more like Bigfoot and
I
stuff
know
like
that,
that.
but I've lived a life of strangeness. You wouldn't think, a lot of people don't know that, but the first thing I saw that was really weird, I was probably about 8 years old. No, younger than that. God, it would have been like 7. We had just moved out to a new home. My mom and dad went out, what they called, they're going to go to a nightclub.
Mm-hmm.
And we stayed home, and me and my sister, she said, let's clean the house for mom and dad. Okay, great. So we're cleaning the house, but we smelled sulfur and the strong smell of sulfur.
Okay.
And we thought, well, something's burning or what's going on? It was sulfur. And I'd never heard that sulfur was related to the paranormal ever.
Mm-hmm.
So we smell this sulfur, 2 innocent kids, and we go, well, we got to check downstairs because, we had a basement. There could be a fire going on down there. And so we go downstairs together, and a fireball, like an orb, but it's like sparks behind it. And it's like fire. And it shoots across the basement and hits the wall and explodes.
What?
And we're like, oh, that's great. And the moment we're ready to turn around, another one comes from the same vacant spot in the basement. The basement was unfinished. It was all concrete. All we had down there was a big pool table. And it flew from the left behind the staircase out forward and hit the wall by the pool table.
Whoa.
And exploded in a shower of sparks. That was one of the first things that ever went, oh, okay, I guess we don't have everything figured out in the world at age 7. Then I was like, maybe a half year later, it was in the wintertime, I was building a car model. You ever do one of those?
Oh, yeah, sure.
With the glue and you ruin it every time?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Clog up the windows.
Right? Okay. So I'm trying to build a model, and I gotta use the restaurant. Everything surrounds P with me. So I'm trying to build this model. I gotta go and I'm holding it, and all of a sudden I'm like, I gotta go now, and I get up and I run to the bathroom, and the door's locked. We had one bathroom in our house when I grew up, like one. So I jiggle the handle, it's locked, damn it. And I hear my dad go, I'll be out in a minute, or a man. Then I hear, so I'm standing there, hurry up, and the door clicks, that little click of the lock, and the door opens up and nobody's in the bathroom.
Oh.
Oh my God.
That was incident 2 that was life-changing. So then I remember everybody was downstairs. My dad was actually with the family. He was measuring the floor, chalking the floor where he was planning on finishing the basement. So everybody was downstairs. And of course, I fell kind of down the stairs, the wooden stairs, slippery wooden stairs, in my fear. It's one thing I will not say. I'm not a brave guy. Never was, never will be. Crap, at my age, and all the crap I've seen, I'm afraid to take the trash out at night.
But you're also willing to keep on going back to a cabin that's been attacked by people. So I feel like that's pretty courageous. That's just me, though.
So those things happened, and then another thing happened. Like, nothing happened for a lot of years. Nothing. Saw a few things weird in the sky when I was sleeping out all the time. But nothing happened. Then get married. First kid is born, and wife's off grocery shopping, and I'm playing with Josh. It was Josh, and I'm playing with Josh. He's on my back, and I'm doing the horse thing. I'm all four, and he's got a little pop gun, and there's a teddy bear leaning against the wall in his bedroom. So we get the lights kind of low, and I'm galloping in there, and he's got his little gun, and we get up to it, and it's like, shoot, and he goes to shoot it with his pop gun. And, of course, he does miss. The cork misses the poor bear. And, of course, keeping realism, we gallop out of the bedroom, around the center island that gets you into the kitchen, and there's the bear leaning against the dishwasher. And I'm thinking, glitch. This is not right.
Weird.
So I'm like, okay, what does that mean? What happened? Was it the bear that's possessed? I'm just not into this kind of thing. So I grab the damn bear, open the basement door, and toss it down the stairs, and put one of those I got a little chain lock. I lock it. Get up early in the morning, get the bear, take it to a dumpster about 6 miles away, open the dumpster and throw it into John Roberts Printing Company in the dumpster. And I'm like, okay, those are life-changing events.
Yeah.
Because even my son at that young age knew something was wrong. Because there's no way you can go. I mean, it's just there's a wall there. You can't. Went around that big wall into the kitchen. There's the same bear leaning against the dishwasher.
That's
To
crazy.
this day, I'm like, well, what does that mean? What was that for? Who was playing the joke on us?
Yeah.
Right. Well, Doug, I'd like to ask you. It's like you've had a lifelong of weird experiences, not just cryptozoologically, but like what sounds kind of, you would almost say, paranormal. But like, how have all these experiences like evolved your thinking? I guess just on Bigfoot, for example. Like, have you found yourself when you first like really got into this stuff, like and started researching and investigating, from this point today? Like, has your kind of thoughts on it kind of stayed the same, or have you kind of like evolved as you've taken in more of these experiences?
Yeah, it doesn't really evolve. I've always been very open-minded, every which way from Sunday.
Right.
But I can only do so much. I've been, pursuing the physical traits. I'm going to continue with that with legitimate science too. I'm still working on that. I still believe that we can learn things from blood, hair, and things like that. Samples. Now the skin oil, I'm very excited about, because the skin oil should have a special chemical compound. All primates have different chemicals in their skin oil. So when you touch something, Steve, you're leaving triglycerides, but a certain amount, cholesterol. You're leaving all sorts of things, and that's already been studied on every ape. And I've collected a ton of the Bigfoot sebum. So all we got to do is find out where does that lie on that chart.
Right.
But there should be DNA in that too, and you got the fingerprints. You got 3D evidence. How much evidence is 3D? You have the latent details, you have the DNA, and then you have the chemical compound. So even if something's metaphysical, aren't we metaphysical? I mean, if you believe we live on after we die,
right,
then you're metaphysical.
Yeah.
So, even if they are, they're still leaving, I don't care. Even ghosts, I think, leave dust when they come into our room.
Sure. Well, they used to lay talcum powder on the ground
to see their footprints.
There you go.
So
Hey, Doug, on the fingerprint thing, I've always wanted to ask you. I've heard through other interviews and what there's not a whole lot of writing on it, but I have come across some articles about it that the really dusty fingerprints that the Sasquatch leave has also, it's kind of corrosive. It's etched.
Yeah.
Like glass.
Yeah. See, I was the first one. I actually wasn't the one to discover it. A friend of mine called me up one day because I had asked him to do something. We were at a site where there was a lot of Bigfoot activity. The neighbors have all seen them. It was like 10 sightings in this little area. So, and we weren't getting any cameras or any pictures on the trail cams. So I said, would you do me a favor? Take one down, leave it on the ground. Take the battery, just leave it on. Let them just play with it. So he calls me up and he goes, okay. I said, well, I'll collect it. So he collects it and he goes, Doug, there's white crap all over it, like fingerprints. And he goes, I can't get them off. I'm like, well, don't try to get them off. He goes, oh, they're like permanent on here. And so that, of course, got my brain going. Oh, did a little study. All fingerprints are acidic.
Yeah.
It helps kill the bacteria.
That's why, like, when you touch, like, a penny or something back in the day when it was actually coppery. Yeah.
Yeah, you can actually etch your fingerprints permanently on untreated iron.
Okay.
Like, permanently. Like, it'll etch right in. But it seems to affect certain types of styrene or polycarbonate. I don't even know because I got to get the plastic analyzed. But yeah, there's hope with their finger grease.
Yeah. Awesome.
It's actually, we call it Sasquatch alba vernix. I'm glad I brought this to everybody's attention because what I thought for years was just dust on windows, I realized it was grease, like a thick, waxy. And then I found out gorillas leave the same kind of crap, and I'm like, whoa, okay. gorillas actually like will have bubbles coming out of their armpits, and they'll like smear it on themselves and smear it. But it would help you grip stuff, right? What do baseball players do when they want to cheat, right?
Yeah.
You know, our pitchers, I mean.
Yeah, put a little grease on that ball, a little spit. Yeah.
A little moisture.
Yeah.
And so that kind of stuff could really help them grip things. It may be an insect repellent. We don't know all the things it can do. Preserve skin. I cannot wait.
Territorial marking.
Yeah, there could be scents in it, pheromones. We just don't know, anything.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, this is kind of probably a speculative question, but I am curious because like I do feel like if there is if we're to suppose let's just say Bigfoot is real, we know it's real.
Bigfoot's real.
I think there's something to it, right?
Maybe they're not. I have to keep an open mind. They're not.
Yeah, exactly. We don't know for sure, but like you would if there is a Bigfoot, you would think that the Forestry Service or some sort of government agency would be aware, and not only aware, but very interested in this mysterious phenomenon.
Well, I just think it's too big. I think there's certain. I could tell you stories that I've had run-ins with the Bureau of Land Management.
Oh, really?
Sure. Oh my God, that's a crazy story. I was filming Legend Science, and there's a spot where we're filming on that mountainside. We're trying to do LiDAR and radar on that to measure that whole mountain on the Lake Chapaka area. Okay, so we're out there. We're kind of right on the border of BLM land. It's like right there, so I can film as long as I don't cross that boundary, because I'm not going to get a permit. There's no way. So, and there's like it's staked out. It's kind of guesswork where the boundary is. So every once in a while, we'd have all this line of BLM guys, agents, just flying in there while I'm doing my movie, right? And so they'll fly in there, and like, oh God, they'd ask us a bunch of questions. And I would usually try to just like bombard them with questions. That was my way. I just bombarded them. So it was like the third time they had come back, and I'm like, oh my God. I went and hid in my tent. I'm like, I don't want to deal with this crap. So I hear him talking to our cook, and he goes, where's Doug? They're like, oh, he's in that tent. The guy just throws me under the bus, right?
Some friend you are.
So I'm like, I hear him, and I come out of the tent, and he goes, can we talk in private? I'm like, oh God, here I go. I'm going to get arrested for filming on the Bureau of Land Management land and blah, blah, blah. And so he takes me in private. And he goes, do you remember when you were asking me whether we've ever had any Bigfoot activity? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, we lied to you. And so then he said, do you want to come look at some castings and things at the office?
What?
And I'm like, God, it was right in the middle of under so much. I was doing that Olympic runner that day. If you remember
I remember that episode.
Yeah.
That was the Memorial Day footage?
Yeah, the Memorial Day footage. And I really had high hopes on all that stuff. And so I'm like, Rick, you go. You go look at it. If it's really amazing, I'll go there. Then we'll film a bit or whatever. I don't think they were willing to go on camera, so it's kind of worthless.
Yeah.
But bottom line is, I think that happens all over, everywhere. They're never going to, it's compartmentalized. I don't think there's this overarching conspiracy. I think the deep state kind of level, they probably know. But that doesn't get down even one jolt below them. It stays way up there. Yeah. So, and all the people with boots on the ground and the people caught in the middle management, they don't know crap about anything because no one's telling them anything because nobody wants to get fired. So the boots on the ground people see these things all the time, see footprints all the time. They know they're real. They just keep their mouths zipped.
Obviously, like, we don't know exactly. I mean, we can speculate on why they would want to keep it a secret, maybe for safety or people wouldn't go in the woods. But, like, why do you think they would want to and need to keep this a secret?
Well, because it's just a laughable topic. The name, silly name, the tabloids, the fact it's so preposterous. How can we have an unknown creature in our woods? There's no way.
Yeah.
So it's just because of that it is a bit, and actually it's the least crazy thing out there. Compare that to a giraffe,
Yeah.
an elephant.
Yeah.
Compare a Bigfoot to anything. I mean, we have even here humans born with hypertrichinosis.
Mm-hmm.
We don't think anything of that. Nobody freaks out about that, do they? When a baby's born covered in hair,
Yeah.
well, that's no big deal. That's just a genetic problem or whatever. But we talk about a creature that's big, muscular. Well, we have big, muscular humans, right? I'm not one of them, but there are those guys who go, holy crap. I met one the other day. It's like, Jesus, are you even human? You know what I mean? We've all met people like that. And then we meet short people, and we meet, white people, brown people. We have everything under the sun. So why is it so weird of some, rare?
It's fear of ridicule.
I don't know.
I know some Border Patrol. They're former agents. Went to high school. With these guys, they became Border Patrol agents. I know two Marines that were stationed at Camp Pendleton, separate, like they're separate friends, and the Border Patrol agents were told if they ever saw anything like that, just move on.
Yeah, exactly.
Really?
Yeah, just totally move on. Just don't
realize
acknowledge it.
How many police I've met that have seen
Don't
these?
bother them. Don't interact with them.
No, exactly.
And Camp Pendleton's the same way. They're told if you see anything out there that's a Bigfoot, they don't say a Bigfoot, but they say strange. They're like, just let it go. If it's singular, just let it go. Because they're always worried about like people crossing the border with the Border Patrol agents, but they're like, you'll know it's not a coyote. It's not somebody bringing people over.
Yeah.
Just let it walk.
Leave it alone. And that's kind of the way it is with this mystery. But yet the mystery, I mean, if you had just been brought here, came in on a bus, and I tried to describe an electric eel or a Bigfoot, the Bigfoot sounds much more believable. Or a giraffe, or some of these weird. I just saw the top musk glands of a muntjac deer tonight, and you can see the things like opening and closing.
Oh yeah,
on the top. Have you seen that video?
Yeah.
Like
those are the fang ears, and they have the big holes right behind their eyes.
Yeah, they're called muntjac. Yeah.
Whoa.
It's bizarre.
Weird.
It's like, I've seen them and they're already bizarre, but now to see this footage from the top of their head and all this crap going on. A Bigfoot's like the most normal thing ever. Right?
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. It's starting to seem not that weird anymore.
Well, the other thing that's not weird is we have no modern fossils. We have no fossils of modern deer, modern buffalo, modern anything.
Is that true?
Nothing.
Yeah.
So if the whole world was exploded and whatever, wiped off, there would be evidence of the prehistoric deer, prehistoric bison, prehistoric things, and Bigfoot of Gigantopithecus, in the world somewhere. But yet, so we have more fossil evidence of Bigfoot than we do of white-tailed deer.
Well, we have more fossil evidence of Gigantopithecus up until just a couple years ago with chimpanzees. I don't think there's ever been a gorilla fossil found. Never. And I know that chimpanzees, they've only found partial.
Yep.
Like, same with Gigantopithecus, we only found portions of the jaw.
The jaw and some
and
teeth.
we can extrapolate from that. Grover Krantz did a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, and so it's just the whole thing. So in other words, when I say Bigfoot, what I meant to say was a giant ape.
Yeah.
We have evidence of a giant ape that stood quite tall, easily the dimensions of a Bigfoot.
Or bigger.
So why is it so weird? There was an animal just like people are seeing. What is so damn weird? I don't see anything weird about it. But the muntjac deer, hell yeah, now that's weird. I don't believe in that thing.
It's a little off-putting when you see it. It's
That
like
was gross.
I'm gonna look that thing up
Oh,
after this.
here. I'll send it to you right now.
Please do.
I'm
Please
going to send
do.
it to you right this
Please do.
moment. It is
Oh my
so
God.
bizarre. Like, what?
The munkjack deer?
Yeah, but this
I've
this
never heard of
footage,
this.
here it is. It's this footage that's
Oh my
so
God.
bizarre. So I just got to hit send. And I think we were communicating on Messenger, right?
Yeah.
So I'll just type in Steve, and you should have it in about 2 seconds.
I will post this link at the bottom of the show notes so everyone can
You're gonna
watch
freak-
along.
I just
You're
sent
gonna
it.
freak
It is the
me out.
freakiest thing you're ever going to see.
Oh my God, I'm watching it now. You guys talk amongst your...
Let's watch his face.
Can you put it up on the screen?
I don't... I'm sure I can.
Oh,
See,
Oh my
look,
God.
it's weird.
That is absolutely nuts.
Exactly. I rest
It's
my
like
case.
opening... There's like these openings in its head. What? I've never seen anything like
No,
that.
if you see them from the front, you're not going to see any of that.
Yeah.
No, that's crazy. You know, Doug, I want to ask you this before we let you go. Like, have you? I mean, I know it seems like you might be interested in just cryptozoology, the general, broader term, not just Bigfoot. But like, have you had any experiences with any other kind of cryptids?
No, never. No, I've never seen like a dog man or something else. My son saw a striped, what they call maybe the Samson fox. Him and
really?
his friend saw a striped fox that had stripes, but then maybe it could have been a piebald. I'm thinking about it now one day, but that was the only thing that my family's ever seen other than I've had 2 Bigfoot sightings.
Mm-hmm.
That's a cryptid. Big giant lake trout. Other than that, no.
Right.
But these experiences, like the teddy bear that I told you, what do you do with this stuff? Where do I
Yeah.
put it? And does it have broader meaning? Is it meant to humble you? Is it meant to make you just more curious, or to let you know the world is very flexible? Time is
Right.
flexible.
I think all of the above.
Yeah. When
That's-
you experience, whether is it a glitch, was it a ghost, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Me and my daughter were going to a family reunion up in northern Minnesota. We drove up there. We checked our bags into our room. We start walking towards the elevator, and we see a kind of a very unique family come out of the elevator, right? And I mean, we're talking really unique, right? You're not going to mistake this family for any other family. And they come we wait, they come out of the elevator, walk past us to go to their room. We get in the elevator, we go down, we go outside, and here they come. Outside, walking towards the hotel. And my daughter looked at me and goes, glitch.
Oh, that's funny.
You did. So I don't know if you guys got to wind up, but I want to end it on one of the weirdest stories you're ever going to hear in your life.
Oh, please.
You don't
please,
mind?
please.
Do you have a time limit on your shows, Steve?
No, I mean, I try not to take more than 80, 90 minutes of people's time. But
Oh,
man, if you
I
got,
could
I would
care
love to
less.
hear the story, please.
Yeah.
I could care less. I'm just talking to friends.
Aw, thanks,
Okay,
buddy.
So I'm in Vegas. This is many years ago. I'm in Vegas, and I'm at the SEMA show. Okay, if you
What's
ever-
that?
It's like around October. It's the big specialty aftermarket car show. It's a big car show. It's
okay.
like the biggest in the world, right? So I'm there, and I go out at night alone. I went to a place called the Beach Club, and I'm there, and it's just kind of, I don't know, it was like a Tuesday night or something. And I go to walk out, and I walk past, there's a lady there, a woman, playing darts. Beautiful lady, she's playing darts. And I walk past, and don't even look at her really, just walk out. She's like, hey, play darts with me. So I'm like, okay, I gotta work. I said, I gotta work tomorrow, so yeah, let's make it quick. Yeah, I'll do it. I'll beat you.
Yeah.
So we played darts, but we're playing. She goes, it's really good to see you again. And I'm like, okay.
Hmm?
I've never met. She goes, oh yeah, I've known you for like 1,000 years, dude. And I'm
Whoa.
like, what do you mean? She goes, well, let's go somewhere, I'll tell you. So we walk across the street over to the Hard Rock Hotel. We're sitting there, and we went to the arcade room. I mean, this lady's not like a hooker or anything. I know what you
Oh
guys
yeah,
are.
okay.
Right.
Everybody's thinking it has a hooker. No,
I
no,
was
no,
like,
no. No. This is just, it's just a lady who wanted to apparently weird me out. So we go over to the Hard Rock, and we're just playing like whatever. They have an arcade over there, and we're goofing around, having fun. But she keeps dropping these bombs on me. And I'm like, well, you said you've known me for 1,000 years. Tell me about myself. She goes, oh, God, I'll tell you every little detail you want to know. And she started laying things on me about, like, best friend and stuff that's happened to him. This is long before the social media. I was never on Facebook, nothing. I wasn't doing monster, nothing. I was just a private guy. And, okay, so she tells me about stuff. And finally we go, I'm like, okay, well, let's go sit down. I want to hear about this. I'm just open-minded.
Sure.
So we go and we sit down and we have breakfast. So we're both up all night. We're just sitting there at the Hilton having breakfast. She's telling me every little detail about every injury I've ever had, stuff that nobody would ever know about all of my family. And I'm just like, okay. But I said, you've proven to me that you are who you are, but who are you? She said that she's some kind of a high priestess somewhere. She's known me for, like, she keeps sticking to it. She's like at least 1,000 years. And I'm like, oh, okay. But here's where it gets, now this is weird, right? But it gets weirder. Like, it gets really weird. So finally I said, I got to get to work. It's my last day here. I got to go work the booth. So I go, like, say goodnight, whatever. And that's all great. So I go work the booth, and I have to fly out that night. So I go, and I think I'm staying at the Wynn Hotel. Come out of the Wynn, and there's a taxi cab. And it was kind of a weird time. Normally there's a big taxi line, but there was only one cab sitting there. And the cab driver had his hands over his face like this. And he has his head down. And I'm like tapping on the window. And Joe's with me too. He's flying back with me. So my buddy's flying back with me. We tap on the window, and he takes his hands out. He says, get in, whatever. So we get in. He goes, where are you going? We go to the airport. And I go, are you okay? Are you okay to drive? And he goes, no, I just did the weirdest thing last night. And I'm like, well, what happened? Are you sure you're okay? And he's like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm just really freaked out. He tells me the same story that I had told Joe about this lady. The exact story. Describes her, says, I've known you 1,000 years. Has the exact story. Describes her exactly. And somehow we've been put together. Because the last thing she said to me, she said, you won't doubt me before you go home.
That is so crazy.
What?
That's a true story. And
you've never seen or heard from this lady again?
No. Hell no.
What do you...
Well, apparently I gotta wait 1,000 years.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah, you got a couple hundred years.
And it's such a weird story that people will laugh at that. But you know what? I told Joe that whole story when we were at the hotel. When we were at the hotel, because I was with him all day at SEMA, and we were talking about it. I was kind of weirded out too. But with my life, I wasn't that weirded out. But so Joe knew the entire story, all the details. And then when he got in that cab with me, and the cab driver told us that story, and I'm like, oh, okay. Obviously, we were put together for confirmation for both of us.
That is so wild.
That's a good. I mean, it's such a good story. I can never make it up. It's like
no.
Yeah, no. That's so. I mean, that would be very. Were you troubled by that?
Yeah, of course, forever. I'm still am.
Yeah. I got over it.
Those are the things that haunt you.
Yeah.
That you think about. I won't say I think about it every day, but I would say every week, like Flash. And I'm like, what did that mean? Still looking for meaning in it.
Yeah, like what do you do with that?
What do you do with it? Yeah. So, I'm just dumping on you guys.
No, this is beautiful.
So
This
me
is
and Yvette
beautiful.
were driving home from Cloquet, Minnesota, which is north of us about 110 miles. We're driving home. We had a great day. It was beautiful weather. And we're just driving home, just trying to get home. I remember the song on the radio was Vincent by, what's his name? Who sings American Pie? Don McLean.
Yeah, McLean.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay. So that song is on the radio, and it's a beautiful star-filled evening. And we're in my car. We're driving south, just taking my time. And all of a sudden, we see something shiny up by the moon, like shiny and wide. We're like, oh, what is that? What is it? And all of a sudden, it drops straight down like a spider on a web. Like straight down, and just abruptly stops. And all of a sudden, it starts heading for my car windshield.
Oh.
And we're in a 2009 Corvette, right? And this plays into the story. This thing is just heading right for my windshield, right low on the freeway. You know what I mean? It's just gliding.
Mm-hmm.
No wing flapping. It's just gliding towards my windshield. And as we see it, as it gets closer, we can see it's like got wings. Like, I don't know, like not a feathered wings, but like bat wings. And it gets closer and closer and closer. It gets towards the window. Yvette ducks. She ducks, and then eventually I see it pretty close. And I'm like, holy shit, this thing's coming through the windshield. So I duck. Nothing worse than having the Mothman come through your windshield, right?
Right. Yeah. Not a great
it's
scenario.
It's not something you expect when you just want to go home. And so I duck. You can't duck much in a Corvette, there's not a lot of room. And we both feel this terrible chill, like in our lower body, not our upper bodies. Normally your hair stands up on your arms. We both noticed that the hair was standing up from the waist down. It was like all numb and chilly. It was weird. And she's like, oh, screaming, you can pull over. If the next thing go to a gas station, this thing, maybe it's on the car. And I'm like, it's not on the car. Because, we saw it. It was its wings were as wide as 2 lanes of the freeway.
Wow.
Lord.
That's it. Okay, so my point is, what did that mean? What was that for? Or was it just random? Or was it because I was producing Monster Quest at the time and refused to do a winged... History Channel wanted me to do a winged thing. A wing like Mothman. I'm like, there's no evidence. What am I going to tell a story on? I have no evidence to it. Yeah. And witnesses are like old and like way back. There's just
the phenomena reaching out telling you need to do
it. So I call my agent up the next morning and go, I'll do that thing. I'll do that story.
I already had the storyboards.
Anyhow, there you go. All right, there's some high strangeness for you.
That was great.
And you said you'd never seen another cryptid. No. That's a cryptid right there.
I just did. Yeah, that's why. Yeah, that's what. But was it a cryptid? I don't know.
Who knows? That's amazing, though. I would. Seeing a flying winged humanoid is one on the top of my list of things to experience.
Yeah, apparently, and I did the show for Monster Quest, but I had really refused to do it until that moment. So you just wonder, that it haunts you. It haunts her too, because she kind of got a little bit of, like, we used to do a lot more things outdoors at night.
Mm-hmm.
That ain't happening anymore.
Yeah.
Really?
Because what if we weren't in our car? And it does come to my mind too.
Yeah.
Does that thing know us?
It was so high up in the air, it pointed you, it like specifically pointed you out, so it seems like it was for you.
It seems like you could make that conclusion, and I'm like, well, maybe it was just random, right?
If it was going to try to harm you, crashing into your car and making you crash would have been pretty bad. But for it to do nothing and just frighten you?
No, it just
or wake
right
you up?
Towards the window and gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's incredible.
I'm just like, well, there has to be some consciousness out there. I'm the Monster Quest guy. Now, who am I going to tell? I told my agent. But he didn't believe me. Trust me.
Yeah, sure, Doug. Yeah.
He's like, well, you saw an owl. You saw a crane. You guys saw that. I put Yvette on. She's like, no. It was, no. There's no be like a 20-foot owl. No, thank you.
Yeah. And if there's a 20-foot owl, that's just as weird.
That's even weirder.
That's cryptid.
Right. Right. Yeah, I want to ask you before we let you go because and this is a question from Morgan. Sorry, Morgan, I hope you don't mind if I'm asking
no, it's okay.
your question. But I do want to get your thoughts on this. What are your thoughts on the Patterson-Gimlin film and the Freeman footage? Do you, and also the third part to that question is, do you think there's, like, what do you find to be the most compelling Bigfoot footage out there?
Well, definitely the Patterson-Gimlin footage. I've spent at least 30 years studying that film, every frame over and over, and to the point where I was like the first to develop Frelling, forward, reversed, enhanced loops.
Right.
I was the first guy to do the digital copy in high
Oh,
def.
no kidding.
Oh yeah, John Green was a good friend of mine and got one of his prized just sub copies, and took it to Crash and Sue's, and I transferred it many years ago into high def, and it was really cool because it was up on a giant screen, and all these tech guys. This is back in the old days when editing was kind of a big deal, right? 1-inch machines and 2-inch machines that we used to edit. And so I'm at Crash and Sue's, and we're doing the 3-light transfer, and the technician, like he turns white, and I'm like, what's the, he's like, I didn't believe in this thing until I saw, and I go, what are you staring at? He goes, when Bob Gimlin turns to look at the thing, the hair bristles. It goes into piloerection. And I'm like, he's showing me where it does it? Because we're watching on a big screen right from the film, right? And I'm like, holy crap, it does. Still to this day, nobody's talked about that.
Yeah.
I did not know that. That's incredible.
There's a little piloerection going on, right? The moment they lock eyes.
Well,
we all have that, our hair standing on end.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, the thing is, and just to, re-compliment you on Sasquatch Legend Meets Science, which, folks, if you have not seen that, it is so fantastic. It really is. It's
also so old.
But I mean, like, good is good, and good holds up. And so, I mean, like,
the info's solid.
The info is so solid, and it's really, I love just the point of view where it's like, you're not trying to prove a hypothesis. You're just like, this is the evidence. We are going to explore it deeply.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love what I'm very happy about. I'm like, to the scientists that were involved, like even Jeff. I mean, Jeff looked like a kid in there.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want wishy-washy conclusions. If you feel wishy-washy, then give me a no on it.
Right.
And if you feel strong about it, then let's just get strong conclusions.
Right.
I don't care which one. Just lay it out.
Are you familiar with the Freeman footage?
Well, I wrote the book.
Oh, then I guess you are.
No, I wrote part of the book.
Oh, wow.
Paul was a good friend of mine. Paul Freeman was. And I was the one that discovered the baby in the footage.
Yeah.
And in the book that I published, so I own the company that published
Hangar One,
yeah.
Yeah.
So I worked with Michael Freeman. Yeah, that one. They published that book. So yeah, I know Paul.
I told you he's a fan.
And that book is so cool because it starts out with Paul's diary.
Yeah.
My name's Paul Freeman, and I've got quite a story to tell you.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, it's just chilling. So we have all the QR codes throughout the book. And so, yeah, but I'm the one that found the baby. I was doing my frells back and forth. And I'm like, Paul, there's a baby being lifted in this. And I was absolutely, I worked on it 4 days, the same thing before I even called him. He goes, really? Well, I'd like to see that, and that's the way Paul was. He was a sweetie. I love Paul. And he was people just think he was like, oh my God, nobody can be that lucky. If you know how hard that guy researched,
yeah,
and he'd like almost break up and ruin his marriage going, honey, I'm going to be gone for 10 days. I'm going up, I'm going to do this. And, he would be gone for weeks at a time. And all the other researchers that he worked with all had so much respect for him.
Was this in Oregon where he caught that footage?
He's in the Blue Mountains in Washington.
Washington. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Washington.
that's basically eastern Washington,
Mm-hmm.
a little more east. Kind of an arid area, and he was in charge of Deduck Springs, protecting it, and it was like he would patrol. And so,
You know, like the reservoirs.
yeah,
and
the
stuff.
reservoir there, Deduck Springs, and that's why they were there, because that was just amazing
There's
water.
water.
There's
Yep.
water, and not only that, it's really good water, good quality water. I'm dealing with another case. I don't know, I'm not supposed to say where, but of course they have a spring on their property. I'm dealing with another case. They have a spring right on their property. It's just, well, they're coming to drink.
Yeah.
Is the water drinkable? Oh yeah, that's where we get our water. It's beautiful. It's crystal clear, bubbling up from the ground into like a pond area. Yeah, that's why they're there. They're not necessarily camping there, but they're coming in.
No,
Right.
you probably agree with me on this, Doug.
Never.
Paul Freeman would be more of a household name. Like he's becoming more popular now
Right.
because of that book and because people are more
Well, that's
open-minded now. But back when he released that footage, he kind of got. I want to explain it to the listeners. He got put through the ringer with the media.
Yeah.
They cut up an interview with him because they asked him if he had ever made fake casts or feet to make casts. Well, in order to understand how a foot is made and how a fake is made,
Right.
you do that kind of stuff. Everybody, anybody who's a Bigfooter,
Yeah, he gave him an honest answer, but he had never faked footprints.
but they cut it up.
I know.
The interview, and it aired on TV and
Oh man,
ruined
that's
his
a shame.
reputation.
Yeah, yeah. Now, Paul, I just know that his footage withstands the test of time. I believe that Bigfoot, the big one, was in postpartum. I believe it came out to distract Paul away from an infant. And the infant is not only... I would have that theory even if I hadn't seen the infant. I had that theory. And then when I found the baby in the footage, I'm like, ding, 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 ding. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you can see the head. Have you looked at the footage, Morgan?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah, you see the head, you see the feet wrap around. I remember the moment I found that, I ran up. My daughter was just a little bug at that point, probably like 6 months old. And I picked her up and she wrapped her legs around my waist. I went, and I ran back downstairs and the wife's going, "What are you doing?"
I've got goosebumps right now because that's like to find that, to be the one to find that that's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome.
But I would do that by just you would reverse it, and then right at the point you wouldn't start over again. You would just leave it from that point.
Yeah,
go back and forth, so you're scrubbing this in a smooth, beautiful
you start to
way.
see the movements,
and you really get to see it. So I just called that frowning. I did that for years and years and years because I would be like, well, if this is fake, then something's gonna show up. Like the Memorial Day footage is not fake. I investigated that so thoroughly, like all the people. I've made huge money offers to many of these people that you don't know about. To just tell me, how you did this or whatever.
And isn't there supposed to be an infant or a young one on
there
the
is
back?
in the Memorial Day. Look at the end.
At the very end.
It just pops up.
Yeah,
on its own.
Really?
Yeah.
The creature's got its arms by its side. What's causing that? People are like, "Whoa,
so
it's taking
it looks
its
like it's
mask
carrying
off."
something as it's running.
Yeah,
and then towards the end, it's looping it up on its back, like putting it up on its
It
shoulders.
puts it on its back, and then it leaves it alone, and then it really stands up tall.
Yeah, right at the end of the footage, the head of the creature gets tall, but it's
right. I did see that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I knew the Pates. I knew all the witnesses, knew them personally. Stayed in touch with them for years afterwards to try to, to get to the bottom of it. Because I'll latch on certain footage, especially if there's like an infant involved or postpartum stuff going on. Because you have no idea how many people came up to me and said, "I was there that day, and we saw that Bigfoot come up and hide behind a tree See, I was limited on my time because I did that for Discovery. I had to leave a ton of stuff on the floor, and I was shooting in 35 millimeter film.
Yeah.
So I just didn't have tons of film stock to waste. But I had people come up to me that aren't even in the film going, that thing was bothering us for like days.
Yeah.
Before. That's
Well,
when
yeah,
they were ready to
people.
film it, Steve. Because it kept coming up and spying on all these kids. And they
Oh my
were worried
God.
it was going to kidnap one of the kids.
But
That
there's the
is
connection to the
horrifying.
kids again.
There's a whole story that hasn't even been written yet about that
Yeah.
footage that I know, but nobody ever asks about it. You know.
Oh, that is. See, I had no idea.
That's a good
I had
question,
no
Morgan.
idea. Yeah.
Now now that we got the Freeman footage out of the way in the Memorial Day, there is a theory that Patty was deflecting Roger and Bob.
Same thing. Postpartum.
Yeah.
The breasts are too swollen to not
Yeah,
be
exactly.
postpartum. She was just distracting those guys. Anytime a Bigfoot comes out in the open instead of doing a right angle into the woods, there's a reason. It's either a hoax, right? There's a possibility, or they're trying to do the kill deer. You know,
They're deflecting away from young.
That, you know, they lead you with the broken wing. You know, it's the old
Mhm.
broken
Right.
wing there. Follow me, boys. Nothing to look at over here.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the instinct we all have. Whether you have kids or you don't, you get to understand you're going to do anything you can to protect your children, your offspring.
Yeah.
That's why we're here, is to raise kids.
That would be the only reason that they would come out into the open.
Yeah, and it's consistent.
Individual sightings, like glimpses off in the distance and stuff like that. But for them to be in an area so exposed,
Yeah.
it's not for fun.
Why would Patty walk down that creek? When she
Yeah.
could have there was a big root ball there. She could have just, went left and they couldn't even have gotten in that stuff. And the coolest thing was I got to go with Bob back to Bluff Creek for the first time. He had never been back there
Yeah.
since the incident. And to go with him personally and walk around looking for the site was so cool.
Yeah.
I remember seeing the article in some children's magazine with the Patterson, a still frame of the Patterson Gimlin, and you talk about a little kid going, "Oh crap!" You know, I didn't want to talk to him. I was looking at that picture, and I'm going, "That looks real."
That's what did it to me.
Yeah.
That's what did it. I was real young, and I came across a book about the Patterson Gimlin film. Well, it was
You can fake, but you can't fake real.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah.
What is that book?
It's Don Hunter and Renee DeHinden. It's just called Sasquatch, but
Mhm.
it had the stills from the Patterson Gimlin. I remember this in the library
Oh yeah.
when I was in
And you
elementary
just-
school.
You just knew
Right.
it was real because it
Yeah,
was real.
it was
It's because it
cool.
was real.
Yeah.
You know,
It was real, yes.
it looks like, I love the one, it looks like a man in a suit until you see a man in a suit.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like a man in a suit anymore.
Yeah, that's why I always kind of the thing that convinces me most is that, I mean, Planet of the Apes had come out, 2001 came out like a year later, and like those are huge budget Hollywood movies. I mean, Stanley Kubrick is one of the great filmmakers of
Roger
our
couldn't
time.
rub two nickels together.
No.
Yeah, and they couldn't even come close to like having a suit.
Well,
that
didn't
was
Planet of the Apes win awards for their costumes?
Yeah, for costume design. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, who
Yeah,
was it?
so-
Bill Munns? You had an interview, Doug, with Bill Munns on your podcast.
Yep.
If anybody wants to go into depth about breaking down the Patterson Gimlin film,
That's
Bill
the one.
Munns, yeah, he's
Well,
on.
I'm
He
the
also
one
literally
that
wrote a book
sucked
about it.
Bill into this whole thing, and that was kind of life-changing for Bill because I was
didn't
down
believe
in Iowa interviewing Dr. Russ Shahan about Gigantopithecus because he's the one that went over to Asia, and he was working on that whole thing. So I went down to interview Russ, and then of course there's always Giganto was always associated with the short guy standing by the big Giganto statue. Well, that was Bill. I said, "Who's that guy?" He goes, "That's Bill Munns. You want his number?" I'm like, "Hell yeah!" So I called Bill up and I go, "Have you ever really watched the Patterson Gimlin footage?" He goes, "No." So I saw it once when I was a kid, and I said, well, you're about to, you're gonna. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, well, I'm going to pay you to watch the damn thing. And so I financed him for a while to study the film. And then he came back like 2 weeks later, and he goes, dude, that's real.
Yeah.
And that changed his life, because he's been working on that film ever since. That was how many years ago? It was 20 years ago.
Good Lord.
So it like completely
Doug,
altered his life.
lived. I mean, like the life you live. I hope you know how amazing it is, and like, I mean, like, what a life of adventure. Like, that is like the dream for me to do. Like, yeah, you are a blessed man, and also like you've made such an amazing contribution.
Yeah.
To these studies that, like, you know, guys like Morgan, myself, and the listeners really do appreciate deeply.
But
so,
it's all just based on just curiosity. What will this guy say? What will Bill? You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
It's nothing.
But you had the courage to go out there and do that.
I'm just like the guy that will call. Right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who will go and do that and gatekeep.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
I don't.
But you're sharing.
A funny story. I got Stan Friedman's book, Magic 12 or Majestic 12.
Yeah, Majestic 12.
Yeah, okay. So I get his book, and this is many, many years ago. I get his book, and I'm reading it, read it like in a day. And I said, what the fuck? I'm going to call Stan. This is many years ago. So I call him up. We talk. We had a great conversation. Great, cool. Next day, on my door.
Okay.
There's Stan. He goes, I was in the neighborhood, and I had a layover, and I just thought I'd stay and come up and see if you're around. And so I ended up spending 4 days with Stan, and we became friends, and then we ended up going to doing, actually taking trips together to investigate things. But that's what happens when you reach out to people. You don't even, I've had young people go, well, I really love this author. Well, call them up.
Yeah.
As long as you're nice, you're not a killer or some nut. Call them up. There may be something you can do for them.
Right.
And
all they can do is say no.
Worked on, we did stuff together. We were working on a doc that unfortunately didn't happen because of other shows that got in the way. But Stan, I'll tell you a really weird story. This is another one of those weird, like Las Vegas, happened to me and Stan. So Stan, it was during that time, Stan was out, and we were kind of bored one day, and we're like, yeah, what do you want to do? I saw I'd call a local radio station. I know Tim Russell over there at WCCO, and I could run you over there. I'm sure Tim would love to interview you. Okay, so I called Tim. He's like, hell yeah, bring him over. And Stan had reminded me today was the day of Lonnie Zamora's anniversary.
Oh yeah, the
okay.
Socorro incident.
So you're going to get blown away by this story. This story doesn't give me goosebumps.
I'm a big fan of that case too.
Yeah, this is new info.
Big fans.
This is like brand new info. This will freak you out. Okay. So he's reminding me of that, and that's what he's going to talk about with the radio guy, right? So we go downtown Minneapolis. I've been to that studio a million times. So we go up the thing, and we park the car, and we go in, and there's Tim waiting, and he calls us over. It's in a commercial break. Stan comes on, and Stan starts, he's interviewing Stan. And Stan just mentions, today's the anniversary of the Lonnie Zamora case. And Tim Russell goes, well, I was there.
Huh?
And I've known Tim Russell used to do voiceover work for me.
Don't tell me.
For TV stuff. And he goes, well, I was there. Right after the craft lifted off, I was there with my dad, my mom, and my sister.
They were
going, what? He was like, we saw the thing, the smoke, the bushes were still burning, blah, blah, blah. We went in there to help Lonnie. They were on vacation in New Mexico, and they stopped in because they thought Lonnie was in trouble.
Isn't this the family in the story that they never got the names for?
Exactly. I don't know.
My God.
So this is all
and they drove off afterwards, and they never got the names.
So what are the chances, one, that the guy was a friend of mine forever? Like, he was doing voiceover. You get to know people when you work with them professionally.
Yeah.
He was doing voiceover work, and Tim does a lot of voices. He was like the voice of Dusty Linscap for Kmart, right? So he does a lot of voices, a lot of imitations. But anyhow, but what are the chances of Stan showing up at my door, going to CCO's open, go there, blah, 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 it's the anniversary, and then Tim was there?
That's
It's like
crazy.
a jillion to one.
Is Tim still alive?
I don't know, actually.
I mean, it'd be amazing for him to go on the record because that is like a huge
I'd be happy to
missing
look
piece to
into
that
it.
story.
We gotta look into that, Steve.
Yeah, because
His name is Tim Russell. He's a super nice guy. Tim Russell, voiceover guy, and radio guy. In radio forever.
Oh my! Do you know where he's from?
You remember they were kids.
Yeah.
That would make. I mean, what would he have been about at that time? What year was this?
I don't remember. They were teens, probably.
No.
That was when you did the radio program. What year was that?
That would have been like 99, 2000, maybe 25 years ago.
Incredible! That is wild.
But what were the chances of that all coming together?
Well, it
live
sounds
on
like
the radio.
That's your whole life, though.
Exactly. Okay, which brings me to my next thing. I'm just going to mention. I do have a book. Some guy decided he wanted to write a book. He contacted me about Monster Quest. He wanted to write a book.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
And then he's like, no, I need to write it about you. And I think what I'm going to do is interview you over a period of a month and a half, 2 months. We'll try to get your whole life. And I said, well, the story is really about coincidences. That's the main story. And then I told him a story that blew him away. And I said, well, that should be the title of the book, because and what happened when I first got into the TV business back in the 80s. Okay, this goes way back. It was like 1984, 85. I partners with Kurt Hennig from the WWE Wrestling. Mr. Perfect, he was kind of his stage name. But we were doing a comedy show called Fishing Mayhem, right? Well, we wanted to do it. So anyhow, I ran an ad in L.A. to get a camera guy that wanted to come up and shoot a pilot on spec. Got answered right away. Guy came up from L.A. He was all excited to work with me and Kurt. Kurt is a talent along with some other WWE guys. And so we came up, and that was great. But during the production, the guy's like, well, you should really be learning everything. You should be learning this business. I'm like, oh, cool. Yeah. You're willing to teach? He's like, yeah, of course. He goes, I used to live in Minnesota. I'm like, oh, okay. Just kind of put that in the back of my mind. So it's the first guy's teaching me TV, and then came to editing the pilot. He taught me editing, started teaching me the editing. And then I learned the trade, and then I got a job on another show where I was, by the way, that series is still going. My first series that I started, and I had an interview, my first interview. So I'm interviewing this guy, and he goes, or I asked him, I said, well, he lived in a big mansion. I'm like, well, how did you accumulate all this wealth and this? And he goes, well, I had a hit record in the 60s, early 60s. He was telling us, yeah, we were the first band to be signed by Motown. So, okay, and his name is Greg, and that was cool. And I just kind of put it in the back of my mind while I'm over at the other Greg's house. And I said, where'd you get all this money for the editing? He goes, well, I had a hit record in Japan. So I got my first interview I've ever done in my life, and the guy that taught me how to do the interview. Both apparently knew each other, and I'm about to say to this Greg, do you know Greg Bambanek? And he goes, yeah, he was my bass player.
What?
And I'm like, okay, I found you in L.A. though. Okay, this is crazy. And so they were in a band called Michael and the Messengers. The song like Midnight Hour and stuff like that they were the first white band signed by Motown Records. And they had some hits, and they had a big hit. Part of it was like a huge hit in Japan, some other stuff. whatever. But my point is, the coincidence freaked me out.
Yeah.
So I was supposed to meet both these guys. The chances of that are jillion to one.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I named the book Monsters and Messengers,
Mm-hmm.
after Michael and the Messengers.
You are a synchronicity generator, sir.
Yeah.
That's what I'm concluding here.
Well, yeah. Well, the book is 400 and some pages, as I remember, full of
man, look at my
coincidences
hands.
like that.
Unbelievable.
They're fun. They're nothing mind blowing, but they're kind of weird. Yeah.
Yeah. Doug, this has been so incredibly fun. You are, first off, a wonderful storyteller, but also, my hat's off to you for your massive contributions to these fields of study that guys like Morgan and I just absolutely love and have been curious about and continue to be even more curious about our whole lives. So, man, I just want to thank you
You're
for
very welcome,
everything you've
but-
done, sir.
yeah.
Like, truly. And it's just such a pleasure to meet you. And Morgan was the one who's like, you got to have Doug on. And I knew who you were. I'm like, oh, yeah, of course, we should have Doug on. But
Thanks, Morgan.
You're welcome.
We have,
Thank you for coming on.
yeah, really, this has been such
well,
a
I
treat.
need to get you two.
Hey,
This has been
anytime
so
you
much
want,
fun. I'm
pal.
going to get you two over on.
Ooh.
I know you did Dean's show at once.
Yeah, Dean Bertram, I love
he's
Dean.
awesome.
Yeah, he was on my show a few months ago too. Dean's a great
Yeah, I
guy,
love Dean.
real great mind. But I would love to get you back on because we have so many questions for you. Like we could just go
Yeah,
on and on. So
yeah.
if we can convince you to
390
come back on.
pages to go yet.
Yeah, exactly. That was just chapter one.
That was
but
not
I'd
even
love to do
chapter
this
one.
again.
That was just the warm up of chapter one.
That was the forward.
It's been a crazy life, but I just go, well, I'm either crazy and I'm just making all this crap up, or
Which is still fun.
I'm just
Yeah.
still on some kind of weird journey. I do believe in like guardian angels, like helping people out.
Sure.
That's kind of proof of it, isn't it?
I mean, I don't look. I mean, the stuff you're describing like is so statistically, like the odds are so low. This stuff happening
Yeah.
one time, but then all the multitude of times you've experienced
Yeah.
the stuff is just truly mind-boggling to me. But I would ask you, like, where can the listeners find more of Doug Hajicek?
You can just you can watch my podcast on Told Radio AM on every Wednesday. We have a whole bunch of other shows, or you can contact me on Facebook.
Great.
I'm
Great.
definitely on Facebook. I try to get back to every single person.
Okay. Well, you will find all those links in the show notes. And folks, I would recommend, please do, because I rewatched it last night. Sasquatch Science Meets Legend is so good.
Well, wait
It's
for
such
number
a
2
good
to come out. I know it's been a
Well-
while, but it'll be. I'm hoping it'll be the best thing I've ever done.
Well, Morgan and I will fly ourselves to the premiere, sir.
Yes.
Love to have you. So
Doug, this has been so great, my friend. I really thank you so much for your time
Yeah,
and
thank
all these
you.
wonderful stories. And I wrote down so many things I got to look into now. So you provide a lot of new rabbit hole material for
Yes.
both of us.
yeah, it was a ball, guys. Talk soon.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, buddy, you have a great rest of the week, and I hope you have a wonderful dinner tonight or tomorrow. And friends, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Hi Strangeness. Enjoy your dinner. Peace.